Okay, everyone. Thank you for Khaki for inviting me. I'm a great admirer of your work. Putting things together. Getting people to walk through the city. This is the city I was born in. I'm a Mumbaikar 150% with 1 year in Hyderabad. But otherwise, all my life I've been in the city and therefore very familiar with the city. And I was born in Chembur. I now live in BKC. I was living in Jogeshwari before that, Andheri East before that. So basically a suburb person. But what I will share now is my work on mythology. And I always begin my sessions by explaining what is mythology. So the word mythology is about a 150-year-old word which has two parts: logos, which means analytical thinking, and mythos, which is a Greek word for stories that try to explain the world. And this mythos, many Indians believe that the British hated Indians so much that they came up with the word mythology just to spite us using the Sanskrit word mithya. But that's not true. There's no connection between the word mythos and mithya. For those who don't know, the word mithya basically means an incomplete truth. It doesn't mean something which is false. For that, there's another word, asatya. So you have satya and asatya. And mithya basically means something which is incomplete. And therefore, they will, Shankaracharya is supposed to have made the sentence Jagat Mithya Brahma Satyam. So everybody knows limited amount of things and nobody knows everything. And one that is perhaps the reason why we have conversations and talk like this, because when we talk to other people, we get access to their mithya and our understanding of the world expands because we learn new things. And what I'm sharing with you is my understanding of how mythology plays a very important role in human culture. So, again, before I go into the subject, which is about urban gods, about migratory patterns in Mumbai, it's important to understand certain very basic things. Look at how, when people want to understand culture or mythology, what is the relationship between this? We have to begin by imagining a world where there are no human beings. Imagine a world of ants and apes. So, 1,000 years ago, there were ants. 1,000 years ago, there were apes, and they lived exactly the way they do today. There is no shift in the way the ants live and the apes live. Now, the ants are found in each and every ecosystem around the world. They're found in mountains, they are found in deserts, they're found in dense forests. What they do is they are able to adapt to multiple ecosystems by going through a mutation, a genetic mutation, which allows them to live in different ecosystems. Apes cannot do that, and therefore they are found in very limited ecosystems, but they are able to use certain tools under certain special circumstances. They can use a twig or a stick or a rock to solve problems. But otherwise, their lives have not changed for over 1,000 years. But human beings have gone through dramatic changes in these 1,000 years. Every year, every generation, new technology is created, new tools are created. And that tells us that human beings are constantly responding to the world. We are constantly adapting, we are constantly changing. And that is because we have imagination. And because we have imagination, we are a special species. There are books like Sapiens, which look at all human beings as a single species, but they get one thing very wrong, that human beings, while genetically and biologically are the same species, culturally we are not. Across the world in different ecosystems, we have produced different kinds of tools to adapt to the ecosystem. Bombay is a coastal city, and therefore we have adapted to coastal life. Today, we don't realize it because in the last 100 years, we have got some new kinds of technology like electricity, and we have got the internet, which gives us an illusion, which sort of pulls us out from the ecosystem we live in. We don't realize we're living in a coastal city. For all you know, you could be living in any part of the world and experience this talk because that's what technology does. It distances us away from the ecosystem. But 100 years ago, 200 years ago, we lived very different lives. More importantly, and that's where the magic comes, is that our human culture is not just about tools, it is also about tales. the stories we tell each other. So every human being does not, if you go to any cultural site in the world, you will find a lot of tools, but you will also find tales, stories that people say. And they're not necessarily in the form of words, they're also in the form of images. You see images, and the images tell you how these people imagined reality. And that's the world of mythology. World of mythology is the imagined reality that people live in. And wherever we go, we take our tales with us. So even today, you can carry your cell phone in your hand. But if you are a Christian or a Muslim or a Hindu, or you're a Hindu from North India, from South India, if you're a Chinese, each one of us has a set of tales that has been communicated to us through our families, mostly the mother, but the family tells us stories, and these stories shape the way we imagine reality. They tell us about people who take care of us, people who can harm us, ghosts, goblins, ancestors, spirits, gods. In my when we were writing this, when you see this hashtag urban gods, in many parts of the world, for example, in West Asia, you cannot use a plural. It will be God is a singular word. You don't use a simple thing like this. A hashtag will tell you about imagination. The casualness with which in India we will use the word gods is because we are exposed to an ecosystem where we have multiple gods, and Bombay is one place like that. But if you were to in West Asia, this could be considered blasphemous because you are using multiple gods, plural gods, and then whether it's an uppercase or a lowercase, God should be uppercase or lowercase. What about gender? Is it gods or goddess? So in India, we are comfortable with plural, we are comfortable with all genders, we are comfortable with upper and lower case, and our gods do not necessarily have human forms. Some gods don't even have a form. We can have forms, male form, female form, it can be a tree, it can be a rock, and that's what we're going to see. Because what is unique about India is that we reject no gods. In other words, we do not reject stories. All stories are being welcomed because each story gives meaning to someone. A simple way to understand the word myth is to say it is other people's truth. Everybody has a truth, and that's the myth they live in. Everyone has it. Historians have it, rationalists have it, atheists have it. For example, if you believe in justice, it's a myth because it is your truth. There is no objective ontological evidence that justice exists in the world. Ask anyone who has been put in jail, he will say there is no justice in the world. So justice is like God. You believe in justice, you believe in God. You believe in a tantric medical practitioner, and some people believe that judges are honest people, or lawyers are the priests whom if you bribe enough can get you the things done. So the idea of mythology is about what you believe in, which manifests in the form of stories, in the form of symbols. And a journey through Bombay is like a microcosm. It will tell you how the world is really. And that's the fun thing about, I cannot do this talk perhaps in New York to that extent. I will have much less variety if I was doing this in Shanghai or Japan. But what we have in Bombay is a richness that is perhaps not seen in other parts of India too. So I want to share with you the kind of journey, because it is a city made up of the local people, and it is made of a large number of migrants, and it has a very, very long history. So let's go on this journey by first looking at the map of this. So this is, like this is some strange image that we see. What is this image? And it's basically an old map of Bombay before all the land was reclaimed. And this is, Bombay. So the map, if you see carefully, the northern side is to the left. And so this is the north. So this is where Delhi is, somewhere here out on the left hand. Wherever your left hand is, it goes there. And if you see there is Vasai, and there's this Vasai Creek. And then there is this island of Salsette, this big island from Bandra to Borivali. And then you have the Mahim, the Dadar Mahim, and then you have the islands, islands of Kolaba, and the whole. So there are three big parts. And why is this important? Why is the map important? There's the Elephanta caves. Everything is because we must remember that culture depends on geography, because wherever you're located, it shapes a lot of things. Many people wonder why Africa doesn't have so many civil cultures. As much as the continent is huge, but major culture is mostly in ancient Egypt, the Mediterranean region. But when it comes to India, across the coast, you have got lots of culture. The reason is because of rivers which open up into the sea. When a river opens up into the sea and forms a delta or an estuary, this is the space where people would travel in boats and do trade. This allowed you to do trade. In the ancient times, even before the monsoon winds, a person could travel from Gujarat in a tiny boat along the coast, travel right from Gujarat to Maharashtra, to this coast, come to this river, this Vasai Creek River, the Ulhas River, go up the creek where it's not, the waves are not there. It's quite relatively safe during high tide. You can enter during low tide, you can stay back, and you can do trade with the local people. And for thousands and thousands of years, from Marappan times, their trading has been happening along the coasts. And this is what makes Mumbai special. We have this river which we don't even realize exists. Ulhas River, Mithi River, these are now nallas. We don't even realize they exist. And there are the Thane Creek. This is where the magic of Mumbai started. And this is how, these are called the fluvial civilizations where things start. And this is where we'll see the earliest gods of India emerging. I'm trying to, yeah, there it is. So we have the local gods which are there. For example, there is the Ghodap Dev of Baikala, which is really the hot igneous. I mean, in Bombay is very unique. Not just those rivers which connect us to the sea, but it's also land of volcanic rock. So you have these molten lava, you have got hot water springs. This makes it a very mystical place for many people, because as you come along the coast, you come to this place where there is molten lava, there were hot springs, and people believe the gods lived here. The tapa, the heat which is generated from the earth, is where the gods exist. And therefore, this is in Baikalla, where is this Ghodap Dev, which is really, if you can see, look at the image which I've put over there, is really molten lava. Now it is covered with this saffron color to give it that god ka tap aaya hai. Heat was always associated with life. Cold is associated with death. Light is associated with the day, with life, and darkness is associated with death, which is why the summer and springtime people eat sesame seeds, white sesame seeds, safed til, for Makar Sankranti, for example, because it is life. And during the winter months, that is in rainy season, you'll have black til, kala til, for Shraddh ceremonies and death ceremonies. And here you can see this brightness which is emerging. Someone saw this as a form of a deity. Now it doesn't matter, is this Shiv ka Bhagwan? Now these are new words we will use. Ye Shivji hai, ye Vishnu hai, ye Lok Devata hai, Yaksha hai. But the traditional people just saw this as some form of divinity emerging from the earth, and they would worship it, and they would worship it for children, they would worship it for health, for very basic things. No moksha, dharma, and all those paramatma, atma, all those big words that people use, nobody used in the ordinary people. Remember, the people who lived in this area would have been doing what kinds of profession? They would be fisher folk, they would be working on salt pans, they will be working on toddy tappers, there would be small amount of farming going on over here, not much of farming land, because the mountains are very big. Sayadri mountains are just beyond. A little bit of farming, maybe some rice farming is going on, some hunting is going on, foraging is going on, and they would be worshipping these gods. There is Khada Devi, again in Kolaba, and again you can see the marker is showing you where it is. This is Khada Devi in Kolaba, and this goddess looks like a caterpillar. So people said she's a caterpillar goddess, and you can see there are people who have, if above it, there are people even today who believe if you want children, you will go here and do what is called for your ichha purti, for your wish fulfilling. So gods exist to fulfill your wishes. And if one shrine fulfills a wish, people will go repeatedly because, given gods love repeat order in business, so gods become famous if they fulfill your wish. Lalbagh ka Raja is a case in point. People believe that if you go to the Lalbagh and ask for something, you will get it. And that's what makes a god very famous. They'll say Jagrit Devata. That means he listens to you, responds to you. Now, these are the beliefs that are there in India. Very different from all this talk of Paramatma, Jivatma. These are the local gods of local people, the fisher folk. And they are now, look at this, just in a small area. We just saw these goddess of the caterpillar. Now we have come to Khadeshwari in Bandra. So you've come to the next island. You have come to across the Mahim Creek, and you have another goddess, Kadeshwari. So is it male? Is it female? It's just a rock which is covered, on which there are eyes given to show it's Jagrit. It is seeing you. They'll put hands to show she's responding to you. So these are the images. Some will be, the gender is attributed to it. Most of them are female goddesses. In early deities were most of the time female, especially if you want something from them, like you want health, you want disease to go away, you want babies, you want mental health solutions, you go to a goddess. If you are frightened, then you will go usually to a male god. He would be a guardian god. In the coastal areas, you have these Vetal Deols. Vetals are there, especially in Goa side. If you go, who are the guardians of the village. You have similar deities in India too, Bombay too, but I'm just showing you a snapshot of these gods. We have large number of gods, so I'll go very fast. And please, if you have any questions, put them on the chat box and we will respond to it shortly. If you go right there to north, right on top of the mountains, you have the Jeevadani Devi. And typically when you go to Jeevadani, they'll say Kiskonsa Devi hai, Ekveera Devi hai. These are generic names that are given to goddesses. Ab ye Parvati hai, Lakshmi hai. Nowadays, what has happened is all goddesses become vegetarian because now we have decided that our gods should be vegetarian. Nowadays, new rules are coming that agarbattis should not be lit because it contains bamboo. These are all new ideas which are emerging. But if you ask the local stories, like I was just doing some Google searches on what are the local stories, and typically it would be a cow was missing or a cow was found, and everybody wondered. So the cow suddenly comes in because the cow is going to lead you to the goddess. And then over here, the stories of an untouchable asking, taking care of the cow. The word untouchable comes in. I am a mahar and give me something. And the goddess therefore gives him moksha because moksha cannot be given to a low caste man. So now this goddess has become powerful because she can satisfy moksha. Now that's a huge Brahminical idea, this idea of rebirth. Not very simple, but that doesn't get a lot of followers. Nobody wants moksha. You want simple problem solved. So suddenly a lady appears and says, by the way, while you're giving him moksha, can you give me a baby because I don't have children? And the goddess says, okay, Jeeva dana mein deti hu. And therefore the goddess becomes famous because now she's solving practical issues. She's giving a baby, and therefore Jeevadani becomes important. And the people will climb up the mountain, and that is showing tapa. That shows how serious are you about the goddess. Therefore, pilgrim sites are never easily accessible. They have to walk many steps to go up the Jeevadani. So there you have suddenly, Khada Devi, and you have these local goddesses on the ground. You have these goddesses on the mountain top. Then you have Malabar Hill used to be called Sri Gundi. Now Malabar basically means the Malabar coast, and the entire coast was called Malabar, which is Konkan, and then you have the Kerala coast. But the Sri Gundi was a place where there was a cleft in the rock, a cleft. And they believed, if a rock automatically rises up, they will say it's a male god. If there's a depression in the ground and water is coming out, they'll say a goddess. And as per some legends which are there, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj had also come to this place and had jumped on this across the cleft as to get rid of the ghost of Afzal Khan who haunted him after he had been killed. So no way to prove this. This is the belief of a people, the subjective truth of a people, but the belief is Sri Gundi existed. Malabar Hill was actually this kind of actually word, which I can't prove it. As I said, that is why they're mythos, they're tales. People believe this place is there. But look at the concentration of ideas of the goddesses. There's Jeevdani, who is on top of a mountain. There is Sri Gundi in Malabar Hill, which is a cleft in the rock. Then there is the Vajreshwari, again somewhere in Virar, north of the city. You have the Vajreshwari hot springs where people, and they'll say goddess, these yoginis whose body heat is being released. There are these stories of Shiva's tapa coming and entering the water, and therefore if you enter the water, Shiva's tapa touches you and you're cured of it, or the goddesses are sitting there and the heat from their body manifests and you are cured of skin diseases, which is why people go to these hot springs which are containing sulfur. So it cures a lot of diseases. So you start believing that there is some deity over here which is taking care of it, because where is this heat coming from? So you have the Vajreshwari near Vihar. And then, after this period, this would have been happening for thousands of years. This could be happening, we don't know how long. There is no record of these things. Now we are seeing the new avatars. But then gradually, once a place becomes, look at this thing. There are gods over here. There is a river over here, which connects to the small rivers leading to the coast. You now have economic activity. So there is a lot of trade going on. So paisa hai yahan pe. Where there is money, there is faith. So, traders are coming, people are coming, gods are coming. So naturally the politician has to come, because the politician has seen an opportunity. And now who is the most famous politician of India who comes to every trading spot in India? That is Ashoka the Great. While he's very famous as, for adopting Buddhism and stopping violence, he actually builds his stupas and pillars and edicts in all trading spots. Wherever there was money, there was Ashoka. And it is something that we should remember, that across India, you will find the Ashokan proclamations, wherever they are there in trading spots. They're always in trading spots, wherever money is made, market. So Ashoka had already realized that Bombay is going to become a big space. And in Sopara, which is again north, now we don't talk about Sopara, but Sopara is a place where Ashokan edict is found. And I read this edict when I went to the Chhatrapati Shivaji Vastu Sangrahalaya, the museum in Bombay. And I saw this huge proclamation which talks about Ashoka telling that we should respect our elders and we should respect. And what the biggest problem he faced in those days? Communalism. He would tell about pasandas, the various pasandas, please don't fight with each other, respect each other. So 2,500 years ago, Indians were fighting each other because my God is better than your God. And my God is capital G and your God is small g, or actually a devil. So these kind of fights would still go on. So I'm sure there were these Sanatan Dharmi types over then that too. And of course, stupas had to be built, which to tell people that calm down, relax. And they build these proclamations. And there were stories that even Buddha himself came to Bombay. So there you have another story where Buddha himself flew down here. You have this idea of the Ashokan stupas and Buddhist sites. There is near Chakresh, there is also a place called Chakreshwar in Nalasopara. And while right now you have these images like this Buddha image in there, or these steles which show heroes and hero shrines, the word Chakreshwar leads one to believe that it could be a Jain shrine, because the Chakra Devi is a Yakshi of Rishabh Devji, and she holds wheels in her hands. And remember, the wheel is also the Dharma Chakra. It is also the wheel of the caravans which would come. The wheel also represents Chakravarti, the horizon which is controlled, which is the king's horizon, where the capital is connected to the horizon through trade routes. So Chakreshwari is a Jain Yakshi, and probably this name has some relationship with the Jains who would have been in the same spot where the Buddhists were. Buddhist and Jain shrines are usually found next to each other, and over time, of course, other religions come in, but this is an important point to remember. This is all happening in the north of Bombay near Sopara, and you are finding these ships are coming here, trading here. The kings are now establishing their proclamations. And then you come towards the Kanheri caves near Borivali. We go for the Borivali National Park, and we forget that there is a huge cave over here which has Buddhist images like this one. This is a image. Kanheri caves has images of Mahayana Buddhism, where Buddha's new forms appear, the Bodhisattvas appear, and they have multiple heads. And this is a very rare image, a stone statue with multiple heads. I was told by an art historian, it is the earliest one in the world, which is found in Kanheri caves. I don't know if it still exists. We never know. The politicians don't know all these things. And these images are of showing. These were the Buddhist images. Now remember, the trader is coming here. He's very nervous. What's going to happen to me? Will my ships be successful? I'm going on this long journey. Anxiety is there. And therefore, what does the Bodhisattva do? This is Avalokiteshvara, the one who listens to the problems of people. And how do you know the divine helpline? I call it the divine helpline. And how do you know the divine helpline works? He has money heads. so many years, so he can listen to many problems, and he's going to tell you that don't be afraid, and he solves all kinds of problems. Kanheri caves have images of Avalokiteshvara, which is always found in trading spots across India's coastline and in Sri Lanka and in Southeast Asia. Wherever the ships went, you will have images of Avalokiteshvara. Then you have the caves of Jogeshwari. After the Buddhism and Jainism, you start having, it is only after Buddhism and Jainism that the Brahmins realized that they also need gods who can be seen. The Vedic gods were never seen, they were only mentioned in songs. And they said, okay, let's create gods, let's now change, otherwise we will lose relevance, social relevance. And therefore, in places like Jogeshwari, in the middle of slum areas, you will find a wonderful site where you have the gods, the early images of Shiva appearing. And I'm told that the Jogeshwari is a site where the first images were done, but later, because the soil was not good enough, the rock was not good enough, they moved to the Elephanta caves. And Elephanta caves, the image will come a little later. But in Bombay, in this region, you have the earliest images of Shiva anywhere in the world. So, roughly around 1300 years ago, 1400 years ago, around the time when the Prophet Muhammad is rising in Arabia, in Bombay, I'm sure the trading ships were coming. I don't know how many of you all know that the Prophet Muhammad was a merchant, and he spoke of India as a land of great opportunity. And in Islam, the forbidden fruit is supposed to be the banana. And guess where the banana comes from? It comes from India. And therefore, this was the golden land of opportunity. And over here, while the Islam is rising in Arabia, Shiva images were being built for the first time. Gigantic Shiva images like the Bara Devi stele in Parel. Now look at this image. This image is fabulous. It's a gigantic 20-30 feet long image. It's not very clear whether it's a Shiva's image. It's probably Shiva, but it belongs to a time when Hinduism is emerging and they're imagining a god who is multiplying himself. And it's probably Shiva, but I have my doubts that it could also be Vishnu emanating himself. These are the various avatars emerging from his body. And you have in Elephanta, as I said, in Gharapuri, which is across, and now you can see it through Atal Setu, the famous Shiva images. The first time, like a comic book strip, you have these images of Shiva, Shiva's marriage, Shiva appearing from the pillar. He is the Trimurti image, Andhakasur. This is Andhaka being killed. So, this very powerful god. Now, what is very powerful over here, especially, is with Hinduism, the early Buddhist images showed gods only with two arms. Hindus introduced the idea of gods with four arms, with multiple heads, which is what you see even in Mahayana Buddhism. There is a shift. They are saying that our God, how does a child recognize that this is a god? You sees four hands, six hands, three heads, different body types. So they're saying superhuman creatures like the Superman in the ancient days. But more importantly, the notion of Grahastha Jivan emerged. Grahastha, look at the word hasta. This grahastha is hand, and this word grahastha is not found in the Vedic corpus at all. It appears only in the Dharma Shastras much later, and it refers to people who spend with your two hands you take care of yourself, but with the other two hands you take care of others. So while the Buddhist monasteries was talking about peace and looking inwards, and blessing people to stay calm and composed, Hindu gods were shown as being active, participating, engaging with the world. So Shiva and Vishnu participate, and realizing this, you have even the Buddhists coming up with the idea that, oh, we also have a bodhisattva who can take care of you. Everyone has a divine help desk. Basically, you have a call center where you can call and gods will take care of you. And you realize through these tales the anxieties of the traders who are coming to Bombay. And this is happening over 1400 years ago. I know many people believe कि ये तो हजारों साल से है, but it is not. It is about 1500 years ago. These images are there. These were done by the Kalchuri kings. They were done by the Kodamba kings who lived in the corner. Chalukyas. The names keep varying. Lots of different varieties are there. It's never so exact in those days. You have the Veer girls, when you go to the best thing is in Borivali, there is a building society where you have these structures, these stone steel steles, which are these pillar-like things in India. Wherever a death would happen, or a great hero would die, or a great battle would be done, the kings would carve these fabulous statues. And this is the only image of of ships in the region of Bombay. And this is, of course, not a regular merchant ships. These are war going on. They're obviously fighting because the kings wanted all the ships to come to their port so that they could make money and they would fight. There would be a lot of piracy. So India, you could see that long before there were pirates in other parts of the world, there were pirates in Indian seas also. So the king had to offer protection if he wants the merchants to come here. And this becomes very, very important. This stele would be around 800 years old. It built by the Shilahara kings of Bombay. And so you see, Bombay is an active zone around 800, 900 years ago. And we know this because someone felt this obviously was an important war, important enough to be commemorated in a stele. This is a kind of and local people, on top of these images, people have forgotten about them. So I think even today somebody will think that ye Shivji hai, or everything becomes about Shiva and Vishnu because we don't educate our children about what is how history functions. You also have, right there, the Ambarnath, the early images of Shiva. Look at this beautiful stone sculpture in Ambarnath, which is again about 800, 900 years old at the time of the Shilahara kings. And these were Shiva temples which were damaged and they're still there. They're made of black igneous rock. And this style of architecture, there is no there's no cement or concrete used. It's just stones locked into each other. And this style was developed by a very capable Brahmin known as Hemadri Pant, who lived in Aurangabad, Daulatabad, in the Ellora region with the Yadava kings. The Yadava kings or the Seoni kings or Jadhavs as they're called, Jadhavs. The surname like a Jadhav or in Maharashtra surnames like Kadamba. These are words which would indicate some kind of affiliation with royal families. And most of them came from hilly areas and they mostly were from pastoral communities. The agricultural community were busy farming, but the pastoral communities who took care of sheep and goats and cattle would also be great warriors and fighters. And Maharashtra is a very unique ecosystem. Maharashtra, you have the coast where the ships will come, and then you have these mountains which separate you, and whoever would manage the mountain passes would be the kings of this land. And this is how the early kings of Maharashtra emerged. They managed the mountain passes, and these mountain passes are exactly what Ashoka wanted to control. And this is where the Ghats of Bombay created this wealth and power, and they also had their gods. And the most famous god in Maharashtra, the maximum number of Shiva temples are located. Observe how from Buddhism to Jainism, from those folk goddesses, we are now moving to a more royal gods. The Shiva is appearing. There is no Vishnu appearing as yet. It is basically Shiva temples because Shiva temples were considered to have occult power, and the kings would build these fabulous temples, including Elephanta. These were not temples like we build today, which is built in Ayodhya right now, which is meant for bhakti. These were occult shrines. They were tantric temples which would give magical power to the region around it and attract wealth, attract prosperity, create security in these lands. And then you see this Banaganga emerging on the mountain where we are told Ram also arrived here because in order to be a holy spot or to become a successful place, two gods have to visit you. Buddha has visited you, that's done. So the Buddhists say Buddha has visited you. So the Hindus will come and say Ram yahan aaye the, and he shot an arrow and water came, and that is Banaganga. And obviously it is in the land where some of the richest people in our country live, in Malabar Hill. So Ram also goes wherever, or the other way around, rich people go wherever Ram is. And you will also find stories of Pandavas. So every time there is a cave in India, especially in Maharashtra side, people wouldn't know who built these caves, these magnificent caves. They will call it Pandav Leni. So Pandavas lived here. So you have these ideas of the epic heroes, the idea that a place get legitimized by the presence of these gods. Ram has come here, Pandavas have come here. And you have the Babul Manat temple again on a mountain top. Like Jivadani is a goddess, a Jogini over there. You have a Shiva temple being built, and this is happening around 12th, 13th century, where something new is happening. Now you have the Muslim kings emerging, and there is a, one of the first attacks of the Muslim attacks happened in the Thane region, in the Gujarat and Thane region. There is the Chachnama in the 7th century. The book is written in the 14th century, but talks that in the 7th century, shortly after the Prophet, there were ships which came, which tried to establish Islam in the Sindh and Gujarat region. They only succeeded in Sindh, but couldn't come further than that. But the idea that Maharashtra, this area, Sopara, had be the first place where Islam tried to enter but couldn't, and then later Islam comes. So the Arabs were known as the Tajiks, and then later the Turks would come from Central Asia via Delhi, and then we know that Alauddin Khilji started coming to the south. So in the 7th century, you have the Tajiks or Arabs coming by sea, but later, almost for 700 years later, in the 14th century, you have got the Turkeys coming from the northern part, and one of the most successful warrior sultans of that time was the Khilji dynasty. So now we are shifting, the world is changing dramatically from the tribal gods to the Buddhists, to the Jains, to the Shiva temples. The Shiva temples are the ones which are being plundered because they were sources of great wealth. And now you have got a new set of gods emerging. So, this is, of course, the Prabha Devi temple, which was built around that time. One of the stories goes that when Alauddin Khilji attacked Daulatabad fort, the prince from that place, Bhima, came to Bombay, to Mahikavati, which is probably Mahim, and we have these stories. Some people say maybe have come from Gujarat, some people say he came from Daulatabad, not very clear, but he would have established the local goddess Prabha Devi in the region of Dadar, very famous. This is, then you have the Mumba Devi shrine at that time. So these are the shrines that are coming in, and now you're getting, India is getting more and more international. Mumbai is getting international. We now have the martyrs of Thane. You have got, Jewish, Christian people coming to India, traveling by ship, coming to Bombay. This land is now controlled by the Gujarat sultans, who do not like the Christians coming in, and they are killed. So there are the martyrdom, shaheeds, the Christian martyrs in Thane. There is a shrine of that in Thane. Then you have got the dargahs coming in. You suddenly have a lot of people traveling from Mecca. You would go to Mecca from the port of Bombay, and therefore you have the Haji Malang, Haji Mahimi, Haji Ali. All of these shrines are facing Mecca from the coast of Mumbai. Suddenly, this is happening in the 14th century, 15th century, 16th century. Mumbai is now become, it's controlled by the Muslims. After the Muslims, the Portuguese start to come. Before that, a little bit about, that, as I said, yogis have come here already. This slide should have been a little earlier. This would be the yogis coming. Pai Dhuni is perhaps named after Pavan Ki Dhuni, the oldest burning fire in Bombay, which would be from the ancient times, maybe at the time of the Buddha. So I should have put this slide a little earlier. You have also Tukaram traveling here. He was a trader. He must have come to Bombay to collect salt, and this is his Tukaram's temple in Vadala. So now you're seeing history, and the new gods are coming. This would be the arrival of Krishna Bhakti. This would be the arrival of Abhangas entering. So you have now the Tantric temples have given away to the Bhakti temples emerging. Then you have the Portuguese coming in, the Michael's Church in Bandra, the St. Andrew's Church in Bandra, which were built by the Portuguese. And once the Portuguese give part of the land to the British, you have the St. Thomas Cathedral after the St. Thomas, who's the first Christian to come to India. And on his name, you have the church built, which gives the name Church Gate to the Churchgate station, named after St. Thomas Cathedral, built by the British. So this is now 16th century. We have come to the 1600s. This is where Akbar is ruling in Delhi when this is happening over here in Mumbai. This is also the time when Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj has raided Surat. Surat has lost its value, and therefore all the merchants have decided to move to Bombay, because the British say, don't worry, we will take care of you. We will protect you from these raids, and therefore Mumbai starts becoming important. You have the Pathare Prabhus emerging, who are the scribal communities of the local kings, the Mahikavatis, who are building. You have the temples like, when they're building the causeway or a bridge which breaks down, they suddenly, like in India, you'll have these old statues emerging, one of them being the Mahalakshmi temple. While it is called a Mahalakshmi temple, let us remember that in front of the goddess Mahalakshmi, there are three goddesses. You'll find a lion, not an elephant. So I always tell people, how is it a Lakshmi temple when there is a lion? It should be a Durga temple, but since it is patronized by the merchant community, it becomes a vegetarian goddess. She becomes Mahalakshmi. Lotus flowers are offered to her. But in local Marathi language, it just means Ambabai, or the mother goddess, who can be all forms for all people. But it depends on who the patron is. And you have now the Parsis coming here as the Muslims have taken over Iran. You have the Parsis coming to Bombay, to the coast between Gujarat and Bombay, which were mangrove areas which were given to them, and they become traders. This is a Parsi shrine. You have this Ardha Kuo, because half the was encroached upon, so half the well is still there, which is still remembered. The Parsis used to worship fire. They used to also worship water. That's why they were seen as idolaters by the Muslims, who did not appreciate the water being worshipped. They did not worship fire being worshipped. You have Jewish people coming in, like the synagogues are built. This is the gate of mercy of a Jewish person who would have been killed had he not said that he is a person of the book. He worships, he is from the Jewish tradition, and therefore it said Tipu Sultan's mother forgave them, saying they're people of the book, you don't have to kill them. So he was so happy that he built a synagogue. So India is the few countries where Jewish people could thrive. We have heard of the Cochin city, but Bombay also has a strong Jewish tradition emerging. You have then obviously all the traders have come in, the Muslims have come in, the Jewish people have come in, the Parsis have come in, the Jains come in, and there's the Parshanath temple coming in. They're all coming from Gujarat, they're coming from Rajasthan, from the Aravalli regions. You have got the Jains coming, and therefore the Gujarati Vaishnav starts to come, and he starts building the Mota Mandir, infamous for its episodes related to the mischievous behavior of the pontiffs of. This is the Haveli of Srinathji, and this is recently a film was made about the pontiff who was doing all kinds of activities in this place. Let's not go there. Then there is one of the unique Surya Mandirs built in the 19th century. What is unique about this temple in Bombay is, again, somebody would have told him that you have to build a temple to Surya, and doesn't know how to build a temple to Surya. Very different from the temples in Gujarat. This is a new temple. He has a seven-headed horse. This is a description from the Vedas. Somebody reads the Vedas at that time. Max Muller has translated it. Arya Samaj people have translated it. And he tells that Surya's chariot has only one wheel with 12 spokes. Now that's a metaphor in the Rig Veda, but people start taking it literally, and that's how it is built. And you have this Surya temple in Bombay. You have got the people from Sindh coming over here. So you have the Jhulelal temple being built. You have the Pranami Mandirs. Mahatma Gandhi's family believed in the Pranami sect. These are sects from Gujarat who did not believe in idol worship, and they would worship God without form. This idea is clearly influenced by the arrival of Islam, and you can see the rejection of the form. So while they worship Krishna, something like a Krishna, it looks like a temple, but there is no image or idol over here. It's a new idea because ideas are now changing. You have got the Chinese coming here. Therefore, you have got the dragon dance, which happens in Bombay. And I'm sure Khaki tours will take you there to see the temples of Chinese. Then you have people, in India, you do a rock or any statue, it becomes a god. So when Cornwallis statue was forgotten by people, they started believing Cornwallis was some kind of deity and some Gora deity. So it became Gora Dev Wali Sahib, who was worshipped because he would do the Ichha Purti, and some image of it is even there today present, where Lord Cornwallis statue or remains of his statue are worshipped as a local god. Now, if you go to Kerala, for example, there are shrines where black African slave gods are there who were killed with money. They became sort of yakshas. Same thing, the same practice which happened thousands of years ago still continues. A rock is worshipped as a god because faith transforms a god into transforms a stone into a god. Then, of course, the famous Siddhivinayak temple has appeared. You have the Siddhivinayak temple appearing in the 19th century. I remember seeing this old temple as a child, and I saw the structure of the new structure. Then there is the South Indians coming into India. So you have got a Tirupati Balaji temple in Fanaswadi. You have got Sikhs coming in Dadar. So you have a Gurudwara in Dadar. You have got a Saraswati temple of all things, very close to the Reserve Bank of India and the stock market in India, which is the most weird thing about Bombay. Only in Bombay, in the middle of the financial district, you will have people building a Saraswati temple with a peacock in front. By the way, peacock is used in Saraswati only amongst the Digambar Jains. The Shwetambars introduced Saraswati with a swan. That's a topic by itself. In near my house where I grew up, I saw this temple being constructed, the Murugan temple for Tamilians. It was a small temple on the road which became and now is located on a rooftop. My mother wondered why it is on the rooftop, and the local Tamilians said, well, it is on the rooftop because Murugan lives on top of a mountain, and therefore you suddenly have a that's what terrace became legitimized. So you have these ideas. Then in you have the Bengalis coming in Dadar. You have in Odisha's Odia people not to left behind. They do the Jagannath temple, and this is a unique Jagannath temple, and you know it's a 21st century Jagannath temple because you have Gita image in front of Jagannath temple. The traditional Jagannath temple only talks of Radha, Krishna, and Gopikas and Lakshmi. There is no reference to the Mahabharata in this way, but now everybody wants to be a warrior. So you have the Bhagavad Gita statue in front of Jagannath. It is not the way it is there. So you see a transformation of the Odia gods when they come to Bombay in the 21st century, creating objects that give them power and energy. I also found a very rare temple of Balaknathji, who is a sage which is worshipped in Himachal Pradesh. Most taxi drivers from Himachal Pradesh will have an image of a little boy on a peacock. And I have seen this as a child, and I was surprised to find the Balaknath temple in Marol, all the way from Himachal, worshipped by locals over there. And then you have these Di Babas. Look at this. Patri Wale Pehelwan Di Baba. Di Baba means a frontier god. And where does this belong? This is so primal, this is so ancient, this could be thousands of years old, but there it is, built in the 21st century. You can actually see the date in which somebody has built it, and maybe somebody died there, somebody's vision, they had a vision, they had a dream, and they've built this temple in the 21st century. This exists. I think it's the 21st century. I can't see the date carefully. And then you have, of course, not all things Hindu are located in temples. You also have a Chhat Puja, which comes and goes, and there's no trace of it. So it's like the vrats, which have been happening for 1,000 years. Not everything leaves an archaeological trace, but they exist. In India, there are many, many things which do not leave an archaeological trace. Chhat Puja is one such thing. No historian would capture it unless it was photographed or recorded somehow. So that's Mumbai with all its gods. It's a Mumbai, I call it a Devasthan, a city of the gods, home of the gods. But summarizing, you realize that Mumbai is a microcosm of India. It has layered myths. You have got the local gods, then you have got the merchant gods like Ashoka, you have got Shiva temples, the Tantric temples, then you have the foreign gods, the synagogues, the Haji Ali, the churches, and you have the immigrant gods of Gujaratis, Bengalis, Odias, South Indians, people from Telugu, the Tulu, you have got all the, I mean, there are so many gods. As you can see, I've overshot my time, but there's so much to talk about. And this is like a quick speed run, which gives you an idea of how many, that's why you need gods in plural, and you need gods of all genders, and you do not need a capital G. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was a delightful journey through time and deities, exactly like how you promised us. And it feels like we've traveled 2,000 years to sort of get a picture of everything that was worshipped and important in Mumbai. Thank you. That was beautiful. That was lovely. There are some questions in the chat, and I'm going to put some of them to you. Of course, I love the idea when you started, you talked about you told us that myths are other people's truths. I think that that really set the tone for the whole talk. So that was very, very delightful, and I think it resonated with many people. NK had a question whether you had some thoughts about the urban gods of Kolkata as well. Now, that might not be a part of this, but if you have some thoughts, maybe you can share those as well.
तो इतना पैसा में इतना ही मिलेगा.
I think we will talk about it another
I'm
time.
Bombay person talking about ROI.
Perfect then.
Yeah, every city will have its gods. Every city will have its gods. Every other place would have its gods. Calcutta will have its own because remember it was the capital of British India for a very long time. But that's a conversation by itself. Let's focus right now on the Mumbai conversation.
Absolutely. So Surabhi Malviya, a research scholar, says that when gods enter urban, secular, or psychological spaces, do they function more as ethical questioners or do they stay moral authorities?
So, ethics and morality are not part of Hindu mythological structures. These are ideas that ethics, morality, legality, these are all colonial ideas that gods are here like school teachers to tell you whether you're living the right life or the wrong life. It is called what I would call Pegambar Parampara, where God is a judge and he gives you rules of how to live your life. This myth is a West Asian myth. It comes from across the bay, from Arabia, from Mesopotamia, from Rome. The Indian gods are not legal gods. So morality, ethics, because what is ethical? For a vegetarian, ethics is very different. Jain ethics are very different. Vegan ethics are very different. A Devadasi's ethics would be very different. And the dharma concept was that different people live different truths. We have to figure out ways of living together and we have to be accountable for our actions. So Indian gods really when you travel, the way what happens when you're traveling, when you go to America or you're traveling around the world, you carry a little bit of the masala of your house, you carry a little bit of the chutneys from your house, you carry your pickles, you carry some things, you carry photographs of your parents, and you also carry a little bit of your god. And in the old days, they would have these dhaks or metal plates, darks which would be there, tarks would be there, amulets would be there, which people or coins would be there that they would carry. And of course, once you settle in one place, you want something more sthapit, something permanent. So a group of you come together, and in the courtyard, you sort of build a god from your village to say that his power is now here. So it sort of anchors you in a new location, and that's what happens. Therefore, as I said, Jagannath Puri temple is a classic case. It looks sort of like the Jagannath temple of Odisha, but who manages it? Was it built by a Brahmin? Because I don't know who the temple builder is, who are the priests, what are the ceremonies, because the Jagannath temple over there has a very strong plaque which says only Hindus allowed, and previously only a few people were allowed inside it. Now India is changing, so this temple is very different. And the amazing thing is the image of the Bhagavad Gita chariot in front of it. I think it's the Bhagavad Gita chariot. I mean, it could not be, but this shows you that time has changed, and Bhagavad Gita has become an important because it's about ethics and how to live your life and whether to fight a war. And therefore, these new ideas have come. This would not be a traditional idea at all. Traditional idea would be the local songs of bhakti.
So Dr. Ketki Kalele says, what should be the belief system one should have as far as God and divine energies are concerned?
Well, respect other people's truths, and I think that is the most important thing to do. Many people, I always tell people that it's very easy to demand respect, but it's very difficult to give respect to other people's truths. Different gods, like for example, you have a Muslim neighbor, they have got Ramzan, they have Bakra Eid, they're going to do the Qurbani for the gods. Now, will the Muslim family also accept the Hindu practices in the neighborhood? Will you accept the Christian practices in the neighborhood? Nowadays, our biggest problem is the noise pollution which comes because every god apparently has hearing problems, and therefore we need loudspeakers so that they can all be hearing it. Or nowadays, you want gods to hear light pollution, because without pollution, gods don't listen to you. So, in Delhi, it's very important. Unless it's polluted, the gods of Delhi will not listen to you. It tells you so much about Delhi culture. And I think Bombay is now going that way. We want to pollute our cities because otherwise gods will not listen to us. Noise pollution, air pollution, नहीं तो भगवान नहीं सुन पाएंगे आपको. So these are, I think it's about, there's never going to be a common belief system, but I think the Indian way, where you respect other people's truth and hopefully are civil enough to figure out that, there are old people in the neighborhood, there are sick people in the neighborhood, and we have to respect everybody's, who need, we have to be, we do not have to flaunt our bhakti so much that, see God, how wonderful I am, because I think even the gods will get irritated. Nobody likes a show off.
Manav Nair says, he's from Ahmedabad and says, generally, gods, mainstream gods are Ra, Zeus, Odin, Vishnu, and all. But there were other deities who were animal like gods or gods of diseases and people who performed extraordinary feats. And how did we start considering them as deities? And why now do we not have gods of recently known diseases? I mean, I'm waiting to see if we'll have a COVID goddess or god. So,
See, religion doesn't work logically, it works emotionally. And therefore, you see the Dika Devata, which I showed towards the end, the pillar like deity, which is the Pehelwan, some local person has done this. It is the most primal image that I can ever see. There is absolutely primal image. The color is primal, the name is primal. There's also this modernity of the plaque over there. The plaque is so modern, it would have never been in a traditional temple. Everybody's name is on it, like, one of those political posters where everybody and their mother is shown with their little baby photograph also. In case God forgets, पढ़े लिखे नहीं होंगे तो उनका नाम रख दो वहां पे, डेट भी डाल दो. And they're also, so gods appear in this form. Sometimes temples are built because you want to claim the land. That's a very clever way of claiming land. Traditionally, this is what happens to, and that's how organically societies function. Gods will emerge, they will go away. You'll have COVID gods, you'll have HIV gods. You need gods because you're dealing with human insecurity. If there was no human insecurity, science doesn't take away insecurity. Most science professors are the most insecure people. Just see what happens if their name is removed from their papers, how aggressive and violent they will be if they are, the professor of the department is denied that little citation. So the fact is, all gods come from insecurity. And the idea that there should be only one god shows you that, you're not willing to accept other people's gods. The idea that the god should have this form or that form, should be male or female, should higher gods, lower gods, these are all reflections of the human condition. It has nothing to do with the gods out there. There is no ontological evidence of these gods. It is a expression of human psychology. And what it shows, the gods of Mumbai show that Mumbai has accommodated gods from every corner of the world, from history, and not forgotten most of them. They live in some form or the other. And I think that's what my presentation was trying to present, that there are layers and layers of tales in India. Nothing has been rejected despite all the riots, the communalism, the dirt in Bombay, the gutter, the potholes. We should have pothole devata, right? One of the most helpless gods in India should be the pothole devata. And that he just cannot get the best politicians in the world, the supreme Sanatan Dharmis also cannot solve this one problem. The smallpox was taken away, but potholes cannot be taken away. So I think we should, maybe Khaki, I think I'm going to make a recommendation that we need a pothole devata.
You segued beautifully into the second part of his question, which was the future of God and faith in general. I think you already answered that despite the new scientific temperament, you believe that faith and God are going to.
One thing you should remember, science cannot take away jealousy. Show me one scientist who can take away jealousy. Show me one scientific paper on jealousy. So we have overestimated science in the 19th and the 20th century. We are in the 21st century, and we must remember that science does not take away greed, does not take away hatred, does not take away jealousy, does not take away frustration. No science can do that. No medicine can do that. No genetic therapy. You can put as much Botox in your skin, but you cannot get rid of jealousy in your soul. As long as jealousy exists, gods will exist. Mythology will exist. So the day the rational person can say, I can magically remove jealousy from the neighborhood, that is the day when you'll not have any mythology or gods.
True. Jyoti wants to know that you touched on the Betal. Are they only believed in Goa, or do we have other places where we have the same beliefs about Betal and
So, Vetal Deol is found across India. If you go to Nepal, especially, you'll find lots of Vetal statues. These are part of the tantric traditions. There are these many, many gods which exist, where one god has Kankala Sharira, that means a body without flesh, and there's another god with only flesh but no bones. So, there is two tantric forms. One has only bones, and the other does not have any bones, only flesh. So, he's like a blob,
Hmm.
and they worship this a lot across tantric sites. And Konkan has a very strong betal, but also in Tulunadu you find this, in Kerala in different forms. So they'll be called Bhairav, they'll be called different names, but a very unique vocabulary of Vetal emerges in the Konkan and the Goa area. That's trip, the Revalnath and all that, is like a unique vocabulary that emerges in that area during the Chalukya, Kadamba, and period. So you do find something which is unique, but at the same time global.
So, Rama has a question that you spoke that gods travel to different geographies just as they came here because of trade. Why did Indian gods travel to Southeast Asia and beyond, but not to West Asia and Africa?
So, India, the southeastern gods are only for about 300 years or so. So, you have, see, the southeastern gods were invited by kings. So, this is the tantric period. Remember, I showed you the tantric image? So, at one point between 600 AD and 1200 AD, there were these sort of, you can call them sorcerers, magicians, who would say that I can build you this magnificent structure where magic will happen, the Rajamandala concept. And this is the period 600 AD when this actually starts, is when Islam rises in the West and Indian trade moves out of the western coast of India to the eastern coast of India. So if you read William Dalrymple's book, he talks about how when Rome collapses, all trade moves towards Southeast Asia. So you have to look at the timeline. And mota, the timeline is that when Southeast Asia emerges, Islam has already started rising. So these temples are not millions of years old or thousands of years old. The rough time period, like Angkor Wat, was built in 1000 AD. The Cambodian temples were built in Java are 800 AD, 900 AD, by which time Arabia is now Islam. It's a major military force. The Arabs have going around conquering Byzantium. They are conquering. That's when the Parsis are coming to India. So you can imagine that people in the western coast of India are hearing that the great Sasanian Empire has collapsed. The fire worshipping coins, the coins which contained images of fire gods, have disappeared. They're not coming into the market anymore. They're being wiped out completely. So you have a thing that us taraf mat jao, wahan se, so the trader comes from there with the monsoon winds and goes from there. But traders from India who used to go till Sokotra and all that, that's the last time you hear of them, is before the Islamic rise of Islam, which was iconoclastic. It's a major iconoclastic faith. And then you have Pax Arabia emerging. So between the 6th and the 12th century is when Hindu gods are invited to Southeast Asia to work. It is not like the Christian missionaries coming and selling Jesus Christ. These were tantric shrines which had a very specific magical purpose, which the kings were called. They would call them, if this build this Angkor Wat temple, this will be like a magic talisman which will attract things and give you magical. It's like an antenna which will attract magical things. So you have to understand a tantric temple. That's why the design of Ellora, the design of Kailasnath temple, the design of Elephanta caves is very, very different from the typical Hindu temple with a mandapa and the Garbhagriha. These are Bhakti temples which emerge much later. So the Ambarnath temple looks very different from the shrine of Elephanta. The purpose was very different.
So, a couple of queries. One from Milind, who says that he had heard that the Holy Quran mentions banana as a fruit of paradise, and you said it was forbidden. So, if you could clarify
So the
that.
forbidden fruit is the fruit of paradise. So for there are the forbidden fruit is the
Apple.
fruit of paradise. So apple, well, passion fruit actually, but then it becomes the apple, palm of Europe. Then the pomegranate for the Jewish people, and it is banana for Islam, Muslims. And if you read my book Eden, I've written a book called Eden, which talks about Jewish, Christian, and Muslim Islam. And there is this sailors in Kerala who are fighting as to which fruit it should be. And the Hindu king comes up with a solution saying, why not Kalpataru? Whichever fruit you want, you will have. And they don't agree with it. They say, no, 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 we don't agree with this fantasy idea. Our truth is better than your fantasy.
Interesting. So Jyoti says that can you classify tantric, because according to her tantric is all voodoo, and but you have associated it with Shiva, so can you cast some light on that?
Yes, yes. We remember mythology is other people's truths,
Mm.
right? So no, everybody in the other people are superstitious. We are religious. Other people are superstitious. Nobody, I am not superstitious. Other people are jealous. I am not jealous. In the same way, so we start imagining Tantra in a way that Tantra was a technology which emerged between the 6th and the 12th century in India. Its primary deity, it's called the age of Shiva. And that is the time when images of Shiva were constructed and they represented a particular ritual practice, which was conducted by people known as Shiva Gurus, whose job was they would work with kings to attract positive energy. So even today they will say, "Ye devata jagrat hai." If all these words have tantric roots in them, they are not bhakti orientation. Bhakti orientation is really under influence of Islam, but tantric influence, how to know is that the god is always geographically located. The geography is very important. The moment god moves away from geography, like in Islam Allah is present everywhere, the moment you say god is everywhere, it stops being tantric. It's because it is now a Vedanta concept, Atma, Paramatma. But the moment it is geography, that it is located in Mahakali caves, it is located in Jogeshwari caves, it is located in Elephanta cave, that geography, like Siddhi Vinayak is located in Prabhadevi. Jagannath is located in Puri, which is why they have got very upset because the Jagannath temple has been built in Bengal. These are tantric ideas where geographical location is very, very important.
Ramesh says that you showed the image of the Himachal god and the little boy, and he says that the little boy on a peacock sounds exactly like Murugan as well. So the imagery.
Yes. The difference is Murugan has two wives, Devasena and Valli. And in South India, he's a much married god. In North India, Balaknath is a celibate god, but he is from not he opposes Gorakhnath. He defeats Gorakhnath in battle, and he's probably a kind of a warrior ascetic god. Because of the peacock, many people associate it with Kartikeya, and we do know that in the Himalayan region there are lots of Kartikeya shrines, but these shrines he's celibate ascetic who shuns women's company. Women are not allowed to enter these temples like the old Shani temples. While Murugan of South India is a very married, virile, romantic god. So it's a very different idea which emerges in South India. In North India, he's a warrior ascetic. So no women allowed. So very different god. Yeah, there is overlap, of course. But the need to unify everything comes from this Indianness. 1947 ke baad that all Indians are the same. But that homogenizes the culture. It doesn't heterogenize the diversity and the dynamism of our country. And Balaknath is Balaknath. And he is a unique god. He is not even linked to the Navnaths. Very different. And is a Himachali god. And nowhere else.
Okay. And Vinita has a very interesting query saying, what about Mumba Devi? Because, we covered so many other gods, but we didn't
Yeah,
talk
we had
about.
only one slide on Mumbai Devi because that goddess became very famous because that Mumbai was named after her. She was one of the many, many Maha Ambika. Mumba comes from Maha Ambika, so the mother goddess, basically the mother goddess. And the land of Bombay was named after Mumba, the Maha Amba Devi. Then the Portuguese preferred Bombay because the bay. So these kind of words and etymology is always a problem, but it is a folk goddess. But one of the many goddesses in Mumbai, because every island, Gaon Devis were there, many Gaon Devis were there, Jeevdanis were there, were many, many goddesses. And by luck, by chance, bolo, or because it was the center which maximum wealth emerged out of that gully. Maybe that is why Mumbai Devi, maybe that is where I think Bharat would be the right person to ask whether that was the earliest where the concentration of all the traders happened, which why that temple becomes most important. We would never know. I mean, I don't know, but there has to be a reason why of all the other goddesses, because you can't call Bombay Gaon Devi sounds very generic, Grama Devi, Gaon Devi, Gam Devi. So, but Mumba Devi has something dramatic about it, right? It's like Maha Amba Devi, so Mumba Devi. I think that is a dramatic. And Maharashtra side, as I said, Mahalakshmi or Ambabai refers to all the three goddesses, Lakshmi, Saraswati, Durga. And it's the goddesses, of course, received all kinds of sacrifices. Now, but now, of course, they've all become vegetarian. They based on sponsorship.
Wonderful. So there's also I'm skipping, but there's a lot of compliments in the chat for people really admiring and appreciating your talk. And of course, for all the people who asked whether they can see this talk again, the link will be shared soon, so you will be able to see. I think people feel that they've missed so much that they probably want to revisit the talk. Of course, somebody's mentioned that gods are a projection of each one's faith, serving some purpose at the time. So I guess that's true. Parth wants to know if you can share something about the Bene Israelis, the Marathi Jews of Mumbai, and their lifestyle and ideas.
Yeah, so the synagogue which I mentioned, the synagogue, the Mercy synagogue, was a part of that would have been probably a Beni Israeli who built it, not the Israelis who came, the Jewish people who came from the Middle East. They would have been the local. And the story is very famous. Maharashtra had these Shanivar Telis. When the people, a Jewish man came, he learned that there is a oil Teli community, Shanivar Telis, who do not work on Saturdays. And there were another group of oil pressers, Telis, who did not produce oil on Friday. So Shukravar Teli, Shanivar Teli. And Shukravar Telis were Muslims. So he assumed that the Shanivar Telis would be the Jewish people. He went and checked, and they were not eating shellfish. They were not eating a particular kind of fish. They were not working on Saturday. And he concluded that these were probably the lost tribe of Israel. And I've met a lot of Marathi Bene Israelis when I was in Tel Aviv. When I traveled there, I met them and I spoke to them. So it was quite interesting to see people from Maharashtra speaking Marathi in Tel Aviv with me. So it was great fun.
Sonali has an observation that the Bonibi of Sundarbans and Waghobas of the Warli people are gods who are similar because they're tiger form. And perhaps this is how geography shapes faith, because they worshipped, Bonibi is worshipped both by Hindus and
Yeah.
Muslims.
Always remember that a lion is also worshipped. Always we say the lion is worshipped, but lion is not really an Indian animal. It was
Right.
imported to India, and maybe in Gujarat there was some animal which slipped in, but lions were basically west of the Hindu Kush. They could not cross the Hindu Kush mountains. So very few, if there were some lions, they would have been in the Gujarat, Rajasthan area, but across India. So when you have Calcutta images showing the lion would never have survived in the rich, lush green forests of India. It would have been killed by every other animal out there. The tiger can survive in the lush green forest. So in all probability, but the tiger is very difficult to carve because of its lines. So they preferred the lion, and the lion has this mane. So fashion ke liye lion became so important. When people say get very upset when a lion is not native to India, I remind them Singapore is named after a lion. And Sinhala, Sri Lanka is named after lion. None of these places had lion. So geography does influence, but ideas of kings which are imported also make a difference. So one has to be, it's not, everything is not local. It is also, there is a lot of import which happens of ideas. And lion is a classic example. When you go to Delhi, you have all these huge ferocious lions being done, and I find it very funny because Gujarat lions, if you see the little lions over there, they look like little puppies. They are not ferocious. They're not like African lions. And but we imagine, the mantri has imagined a lion in a particular way that aise lion hona chahiye. Lion is a lazy animal. It doesn't work. It gets all the women to work. But tiger is a solitary animal and it works on its own. The female tiger takes care of her baby. She doesn't need a male to take care of her. And she definitely will not take care of the male. So very different from a lion.
Ruchika says that you often refer to the concept of subjective truth. In that perspective, how does the urban density of Mumbai prevent the singularizing of myth that usually happens in organized religion? Does our chaos of our city actually protect the mythological plurality?
Yes, it does. Because homogeneity is, all capitalist societies love homogeneity because homogeneity or standardization means efficiency. They don't like multiple gods. It's like everybody should eat the same kind of food so that I can have a simple canteen where everybody eats the same kind of food. But everybody demands different kinds of food. You have to make lots. So it's very inefficient. And therefore, polytheism is never appreciated by any king who loves capitalism. They want everybody to be vegetarian, everybody to be sattvic, everybody to be eating either halal food. This whole kind of one way of looking at the world doesn't work. It never works. But we try. We always want, because my way or the highway. Every mother-in-law wants the kitchen to be controlled by her. And the daughter-in-law comes and says, no, I will eat Maggie noodles. And that's what's going to happen. And then of course, Saas bhi kabhi bahu thi, because then she goes about doing the same thing until you realize that, you need two kitchens. And that's how families emerge. You have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, different families will create different kinds of food. And that's how gods are there around the world. Indians had figured it out long ago. Any form of homogeneity does not work in an urban ecosystem like India. If you create a society which is full of ants and no humanity. Humanity will have diversity, which is the reason why when Dubai is now emerging as the international city, quietly they are allowing, even in Saudi Arabia, they have decided that alcohol can be served secretly to rich people. So all these kind of things will happen. The moment you want people from all over the world to come in, you have to welcome their gods. Otherwise, Lakshmi won't come. Lakshmi नहीं आएगी आपके पास.
There are many, many compliments, but I do want to read out one by Marbell, which says, wow, a huge round of applause to the whole team of Khaki for bringing this webinar for us. And thank you so much, Devdutt, for explaining each and every bit of your knowledge to us. It was awesome. I think it was much less than your every bit of knowledge, but she does say that it was one of the most amazing webinar sessions about the temples of divine gods and goddesses in an enlightening journey. And I wish that this session never ended.
Thank you.
Vinita's also mentioned about the Jhulelal temple
That
and
is the Dayar. I showed it very briefly,
you
and
did, you
we
did.
didn't have a bigger image of the Jhulelal thing. That's the thing many people missed it. By the way, I want to tell you something very interesting about Jhulelal. The fish he sits on is the palla fish or the salmon fish on the Western thing. And have you heard of Apollo Bandar? Apollo Bandar is not named after the Greek god. Greek god. It is named after the palla fish. A palla bandar became Apollo bandar. So it's a fish which is available in the shallow waters, and the salmon like fish which goes upstream to fresh water from sea water. It's palla fish, which is found in the Indus Valley also.
Anju asks, in what way does a culture shape and reinforce beliefs about the divine discrimination based on caste, class, and gender?
All religion discriminates, all caste discriminates. Mythology is designed around discrimination. Anybody who says they have a religion which doesn't discriminate is completely lying. There is a complete lie. Secular people discriminate. Atheist discriminates against the theist. The secular person discriminates the religious person. The patriarch discriminates against feminists. The feminist discriminates the patriarch. So all human imagination is based on discrimination because we are frightened of the other. And this is normal. If anybody says, I don't discriminate, they are lying. We all discriminate. Some forms of discriminations are permitted, some are not permitted. But every human being on earth discriminates. So please get it out of your heads that only some people discriminate. We talk about caste discrimination, we don't talk about religious discrimination. So everyone discriminates. The Constitution of India discriminates against homosexuals. So even the great judges of India discriminate against people. So there is no law in this world which does not discriminate. And that's the lie we were told in the 20th century, that there is out there a society which will create laws that do not discriminate. Laws are designed to control people and discriminate. The question is, does it enable the weak or does it disable the weak despite discrimination? That is the question we have to ask. But if please get it out of your mind that out there is a single human being who does not discriminate. Everybody discriminates.
Certainly food for thought for all of us. And I think that's where a lot of people are saying, can we have part two of this conversation so we can hear more about it? Because, for instance, somebody has said that we've not yet talked about the Japanese temples in the city because that's a later addition and so on. So maybe we must consider with you part two to this entire conversation. It's been lovely, but I do want to see if Bharat is still online, if he would like to just come on and say hello to you. There's Bharat.
He's there.
Hi, hi, hi. Lovely session. I heard the entire talk from the streets of Bandra. Yeah. There was a crisis because somebody in office was not there, so I had to be here. So I would have loved to open the session, but I couldn't. Right. Uh, Devdutt, it was lovely hearing all this, and especially the question and answers were more enriching than the actual presentation. Yeah. All these concepts, because when questions are asked, it triggers various thoughts, and I hope someday you will write a book about the urban legends of Mumbai, right? The urban gods of Mumbai, and that would satisfy people more than doing a session two, because as they say, a book will be remembered far longer in course of time. So, and you're a prolific writer. Just the other day I was at his house and he showed me a entire a stand which was only full of his books, and it was as tall as I am. So, so I wish him all the best, that probably three more stands like these come up, and all of us are enlightened by various thoughts. Make us think. Many a times, Devdutt makes you think, and that is what I love about it. It's not like he's forcing you to go in a particular direction. He's questioning your beliefs, your thoughts, which make you, I think so, a better person. Whether you agree with him or you don't agree with him, that doesn't matter. He makes you think, and that is the most important thing. Thank you.
So, Bharat, on the same note, as you're asking him to write a book about this, there are people who are asking you to do a walk along the lines of the urban myths, and
Sure,
so
sure.
maybe the two will go
No,
hand.
so many of the things that were seen here form part of our Banganga walk, form part
Correct.
of our Buleshwar walk,
Correct.
Bazaar walk, and so on and so forth, right? So many of these comes. There are many more shrines and stories and legends about Mumbai which come in various locations. I mean, we would need seven talks to cover everything under the sun that this city has to show, right? So, and that's why what I say. This is a open museum which people have to just explore. A lifetime is not enough to understand this city, and we should be blessed that we are in this city. That's all.
Absolutely.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Thank you so much, Bharat. Thank you so much, Devdutt, for such a brilliant 300th talk. So engaging, so much meat for us to think about and to ponder over. And I also want to say a very, very big thank you to the audience who have been with us for these 300 talks. Come hail or storm, we have people who join us, who push us, who bring us more speakers, who engage in the conversations, because like Bharat said, the conversation at the end of the talk is actually the most thought and triggers thinking, and the conversation becomes very rich. So thank you to all of you, and onwards and upwards for Khaki from here, for many, many more talks, and maybe celebrate many more landmarks here and after. Thank you once again, Devdutt, and everyone else this Saturday evening. See you in 2026.
Bye bye. Bye
Bye bye.
bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.